Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back, ninjas, to the Ninja Selling Podcast. He's Garrett. I'm Matt. He has a broken rib. I have a herniated disc. We are coming to you.
We are broken. We are fully broken today.
Oh, gosh. We need some repairs to start this year off with for sure. But we're feeling good. Otherwise, we feel fantastic, and we're excited to be with you today. And we have a nice topic for you today around word of the year. Garrett has been going over a bunch of stuff and kind of said, hey, you know what? We're seeing an interesting trend. And so we want to talk about it. I think it's going to be great. So, but before we do that, the usual reminders for those of you who are new to the podcast and new to Ninja, and maybe this is the first time you've heard about Ninja Selling. If you want to learn more, head over to ninjaselling.com. You can find our live courses we call installations. You can find information about coaching. We have some incredible one-on-one coaches that can help guide you on the path. And you can also find the Ninja Selling book that Larry wrote and start right there if that's where you want to begin. Well, you already started with us, and we appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
And if you haven't checked out our Facebook community, search the Ninja Selling Podcast and Facebook, find our group, join our group. It's amazing. Wonderful group of people. Garrett, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Well, I mean, aside from the herniated disc.
We didn't get hurt together. We should say that. We went and did this all on our own. Matt found his way to destroy himself. I found a flight of stairs I wanted to destroy myself on.
Our energy is so closely connected. If we're going to go through something that's like a 6 to 8 week endeavor, we just, the universe said we had to do it together.
Yeah. The interesting part is that I laugh a lot with you when I'm on this, we do these recordings, and it hurts to laugh. Actually, so if you hear me kind of give these little weird halfway laughs, that's what's going on. So we'll figure that out.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good, man. We'll figure it out. Topic for today. Yeah, I have been kind of looking around, and it's funny. We're going to talk about business plan just a little bit more here, and I know people are done with that, and we're, going into February, and people are like, why are we going back to business planning for a second? But really, what this is, it's an acknowledgement that I want to share with everybody of kind of 2023 from what I'm looking at, and this different energy that we have running with 2023, not going into, running with it right now. And it all comes back, Matt, to the word of the year. And so anybody who doesn't go through our coaching, or anybody who's newer to Ninja, one of the things we like to focus on is helping people just have one simple word for the year. One word that kind of is an encompassing overall focus that they can throw out there on the table and say, okay, is my year running alongside this simple word? And the thing that got my attention, Matt, is that I started to look at, I was thinking back on all the words that people have had over the years, and usually there's a consistent pattern. If I go back, even 2018, 19, 20, there would be a word like consistency, which is a great word, by the way. It's a word that I've used in the past. Excuse me. I'm going to be okay, I promise.
Side effects of broken rib.
You can't cough. It's the rudest thing.
I saw the x-ray. It's a clean break.
It's officially broken. It's not cracked. It's not dislodged. People are like, oh, it's probably dislocated. No. It's
broken.
So you take a word like consistency, and what would happen, Matt, is we see it show up everywhere. And so this is what got my attention. Is I started seeing all these words this year that did not correlate with other people's words. It's like all of a sudden everybody was like, okay, here we've been all running together for so long. And now like I'm running my own business. I'm doing my own focus. I'm not following what everybody else is doing. And Matt, are you seeing this too? I've got like a ton of creative words is what I'm watching, which is great.
So I am seeing it a bit. I mean, I admittedly don't focus as much on comparing words of the year as others do, but I have noticed some interesting words, and I'm like, oh, I've never seen that one as a word of the year before, which is great. I mean, everything that everybody comes up with is perfect because there's a reason why they come up with that word. But I had noticed, like, even for myself, I came up with a word and then I changed it. And it is like, I haven't seen some of these words before. And so I think it's interesting to throw out there because I also have noticed that I have a handful of people that haven't come up with a word because they're not sure what they want to go with because they don't want to do something that maybe they've done before. They don't want to do something that seems cliche, right? Typically we see things like consistency.
Abundance is one that shows up pretty, like that's, you'll see it like on tons of business plans.
Yeah. Yeah. All of these things. But now we're seeing specific things. I have seen before, like listings. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yep. Seen that.
Cool word. But you have a whole bunch of words that I think are just new to the word of the year.
This is what got my attention is like all of a sudden somebody threw out a word and I was like, never heard of that one before. Like that's a great, and especially as they explained it, I was like, that's a great word. And I just kind of like took a mental note of it. And then I was going through somebody else's plan and they threw another word. And I'm like, never heard that one before. Like that's unique. Okay, great. That's what got my attention. And then I started like my awareness was up about it. And I was like, okay, that's another one. And that's another one. And then I started to realize like I don't have any overlap. Really, for the most part, I have not found anybody that has the same word, which is really odd from what I've seen in years past. So here's some words that have come up, and it's really interesting because you look at a word at face value, and a lot of people go like, why in the world would you have that word? And then all of a sudden you ask them questions and they're like, because this is what that word means to me. And you're like, oh, well, that makes a little sense. One of the ones, and this happened just the other day on one of our think tanks that we did, one of the agents that we had on, she said, my word of the year is bubble. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, bubble? Like, wait, what are we focusing on here? Because in real estate,
housing bubble? Wait a minute.
It means something.
We don't like bubbles.
No, bubble's no good. Like, what are we doing? And she said, and all of a sudden she described it. She says, when I think of that word, when I say that word to myself, I think of this protective bubble that I have over the top of myself that protects me from all the outside influences that are coming around that might distract me or pull me off of what I'm doing, or outside voices. Like I'm protected inside this bubble. I was like, great word. Looking at it that way, like, I think it's absolutely awesome. We had another one that came up, which was slowly. I have never had slowly written on as a word of the year ever, ever, ever. But for this person, it was slowing down, being more intentional, taking more time with the things that are right in front of him. Just appreciating the situation and what is going on a higher level by slowly moving through these processes, slowly working with these people. I was like, brilliant, run with it. Matt, as we started talking, you had one you threw at me. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah. Bite-sized, which I thought was a great word too. I was like, okay, well, tell me more about that. What does that mean? And, for this person, it was breaking all these things down into smaller actions that could be done in a bite-sized fashion, so that would then lead up to the bigger things, so not getting stuck on the big picture all the time and kind of being overwhelmed with a large project, but breaking things down and just focusing on, okay, how can I bite-size these things to accomplish them a lot more easily? And I thought it was great. I was like, cool. All right. First thing that I went to mind was, sliders. And I was like, yeah, man, those things are bite-sized and delicious.
I am kind of hungry now that you bring that up.
But I love that too. I think it was great. So I like these words slowly. That when you told me that, I was like, wow. Because when we think of it, which I think is great, I think it actually highlights what Ninja can do for somebody in their life and their career. Because whenever you think of business planning and real estate or sales, it's like, all right, we're just going to like smash a goal. We're going to get out there. We're going to hit the phones hard. We're going to do this, this, and this. And it's fast paced and it's aggressive and we're going to just charge and go, right? So when you put a word like slowly, it highlights, I think, oh man, the value of doing things the right way, the value of connecting in a way that is genuine, which is really what Ninja is all about. And so it's really fun to hear a word like that put on as the word of the year, because I think we can all benefit. I was actually thinking as you were talking, I could benefit from doing things a bit more slowly, taking some pauses and reflection and really dialing in things like that. So I appreciate that word.
Now that I know how I can handle a staircase, I should maybe approach it a little more slowly next time.
Slowly. Probably a good idea.
I can take some benefit in that word. I think it'll go well for me. Intentional. That's another word that has come up that I have seen this year is doing things with intentionality and being, with a higher level. I think that's another one that I haven't really seen in years past. And that kind of goes along with the word slowly and that same type of meaning. It's like, if we're going to do these systems, if we're going to talk to people, let's be intentional about what we're doing. That's another great word that's come up. Limitless. I said that one and you lit all up. Well, that word's got big meaning for you.
Yeah, it does. Live life limitless, baby. I like that word too. I mean, all these words, these are good. I mean, what I like about words like this is you need to interpret the meaning for yourself. And you already know, obviously, if it's your word, but to the outside world, maybe it's not clear. And I think that's okay, right? If your word of the year is something like, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with, like, my word of the year I wrote down for this year is, well, it was going to be uncomfortable, which would have been a very unique word of the year.
Yep.
And then I herniated my disc and I was like, okay, the universe clearly is not understanding what I mean by that.
I was just say it works. The word of the year has worked for you so far.
It definitely has worked. And there is a huge lesson in patience that I am learning and going through. But I switched it after that. My wife's like, maybe that doesn't work. I switched it to breakthrough, which is a more common word of the year that we see on things, right? And so breakthrough, accelerate, those are more of the common ones where to the outside world, like Garrett, I could tell you that word of the year and you'd be like, cool, I know what you're focused on. There's a plateau that you have that you want to bust through, or you just want to drive more of this over here. Whereas when you get into some of these unique things, like, I need you to tell me, like, okay, tell me about that, which can be beneficial. I thought this was what would happen with the word uncomfortable. Fortunately, it didn't work out the way I had planned. But then you get to speak into the world what that word means to you, which, because like at the top of the weekly agenda, Garrett, we have word of the year, right? It's I think it's the first line on the weekly agenda.
Yeah, it is.
So first line, you take the time to think about that every single week. Now you're focused on, okay, I need to make sure that my week looks bite-sized, that I have things broken down into chunks. I need to make sure that my week looks slowly. There's time for me to pause and reflect and take meaningful action. Intentional. I need to make sure that my schedule looks like I am doing things with intention. Did I intentionally set up these meetings? Did I intentionally choose who I want to reach out to? Whereas I'm even now thinking, for me, breakthrough, I can look at my week and say, okay, well, does it look like I'm breaking through? I guess I have to put some more words behind that to really understand what that's going to mean for me, and say, hey, do I have actually things on my calendar that are going to help me break through what I want to break through, right? So, I mean, I love these very specific words of the year that are coming up, Garrett. And maybe that leads to kind of like, we kind of started talking about it here, or I guess I did, but how do we use these words of the year to our advantage?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing is I think there's a lot of people that as they go through business planning, they come up with the word of the year and like, that's my word. And most people, if you asked them, 2 months later, what's your word of the year? They would be like, well, I don't know. Let's go look back at the business plan. What did I write in there? It's just not even part of their day. It's not part of the world. And Matt, as you started to say, the whole point of the word of the year is something that you are looking at weekly. And it is a guiding word for everything you do. You should look at your week that you've planned for yourself and look at your guiding word and say, okay, do these correlate? Do these resonate with each other? You can look at the week you just had. And let's just use the word bubble for an example. You might look at the week you just had and say, okay, did I keep myself protected in my bubble last week? Or maybe I spent an hour standing by the water cooler in the mail room and I got inundated with everybody's crap about what they're seeing in the marketplace and what they're hearing about on the news and what's going on over here. And I'm a mess and my mind's off and I'm not focusing on my right stuff. I'm more worried now about what's going on rather than putting my positive energy into my people and my systems. That one word allows you to have that moment of realization of the past, and it allows you to have this vision of what we're creating now for this new week to say, okay, how can I protect myself now with this bubble? What can I do different than what I did last week? Because last week I let my bubble down. This week, how are we going to keep that up? And we're going to make sure that we stay protected and that we are growing and heading in the direction that we want to be. You just need to bring it around you and use it as that guiding principle. And really, I mean, that's the craziness of the word. It doesn't have to be this huge drawn out process. It's just am I walking in alignment?
Yeah.
I mean, that's as crazy as I would go with it.
I like that too. Just like keeping it with you in those moments, which can be hard to do if you're not looking at it often, right? Have your word of the year somewhere where you can see it all the time so that you remember it in those moments when you need that bubble, because it can be easy to forget.
Can you imagine standing at the water cooler talking to someone else and they start sharing their ideas? They're like, excuse me, actually, I need to leave right now. Thank you. It's really great talking with you. You just bolt. It's like, oh, phew. Like I almost let the bubble down.
Or you just make this bubble motion. Like they're like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just putting on my bubble so that your negativity does not.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sometimes those are things you got to do. You got to walk away. You got to exit those situations and figuring that out. And if you're thinking about that, you will consciously be able to do that and feel good about it too. Like you shouldn't feel bad about having to follow a path that you want to be on, right? You shouldn't feel bad about, adhering to something that, a word of the year that you wrote down to help you achieve what you want to achieve, which will then allow you to create a bigger impact for others. So I love it.
Well, you might turn the news on and all of a sudden be listening to it. And because of the word of the year that you've been thinking about so much, all of a sudden you're looking at the news and going, what am I doing? If I continue sitting here watching what I'm watching right now, I'm going against the word that I have set for myself, which is controlling my internal message going around.
Yeah.
If I turn it off right now and I have the choice to turn it off or to change it to something else, I'm protecting, my internal voice. I think that's where like having these words allows you to look at things and say, okay, this is how I'm going to handle the situation that I'm standing in front of right now, that I'm working with. Again, what made us go down this path was that in years past, I see these same words show up where it's just everybody's got kind of the same thoughts out there. And for the first time in a long time, I see a lot of people running on their own path. They're focusing on their business, not as necessarily as the herd. They are figuring it out on their own. They're looking at themselves and how they're going to protect themselves and do the best for themselves, which really, if you want to grow, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So very exciting out there, Matt. I don't know there's too much more to talk about this. This is just a realization.
No, I think it's great. I think it's a small prediction of like, hey, this is going to be a really good year for a lot of people, because that level of focus and figuring something out like that and leaning into it is going to create an awesome path for those folks. And so I'm excited to see everything that comes out.
I do have another question for you, though. Do you think it's just ninjas? I mean, we deal with ninjas all day long. Do you think they're...
Yeah, I mean, we do. I don't think so necessarily. We get the benefit of talking to people outside of Ninja every now and then. And I've been seeing a lot of different things in people that I talk to outside of the real estate industry, people who are in the real estate industry, but not necessarily a Ninja. I mean, maybe that could just be the people that we're surrounding ourselves with too, right? Regardless of Ninja or not.
The reason I say that, and whether it's Ninja or not, but I think people that can see a path in front of them right now can focus on other things that they might be concerned about on a different level. I think if you can't see a path, that's where in this, I think we've had a couple years here right now where people have not been able to see a path of the future, which that turns into the most concerning piece for them. That's the piece then that they're like, we need to figure out where we're going and how's this going to work. I actually feel like, especially this is why I was saying, do you think it's ninjas? I feel like a lot of our ninjas actually feel like they have a path in the marketplace that we're in right now. I think they, for the most part, understand why business is going to continue on, why there's going to be deals that people need their help with, where those opportunities are going to show up, which I think maybe is allowing them to not have to come up with a word that says, I'm going to be okay, but more of one that allows them to kind of explore different areas of like, well, I'm going to slow down a little bit. We're going to do things in bite-sized quantities. We're going to make sure we have our bubble. We're going to put this limitless idea on here. Maybe that's it. I don't know. We could overanalyze this to death, but I think that that's where if you can see a path, maybe it allows you to go outside the box a little bit. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. And I think it's a great perspective to have on it. So, I'll just say, hey, if you guys don't have a word of the year, don't worry about that either. Maybe just put a little thought into it, though. Give yourself, 30 minutes, sit down, think about it, and write something that feels good to you, and lean into it, and allow that to carry you through. And if you need to change it halfway through the year, great, right? You want to be tied to things that are meaningful for you to help you be on that path that you spoke about, Garrett. So I love it, man.
Cool.
I appreciate this topic. Thanks for bringing it up.
Well, and to wrap this up, Matt, thank you so much as always. Thank you to everybody who took time to listen to us and hang out with us for a little bit this morning or this afternoon or this evening or wherever you're at in your world and your day. If you want to know more about ninja selling, as Matt was saying earlier, go check out the book by Larry Kendall, which is Ninja Selling. If you haven't done that, you can also go to ninjaselling.com and you can learn about all upcoming events. We have coaching on there, other opportunities. If you want to know more about coaching, click that coaching tab on there and you can learn all about what we're up to, what Matt and I do pretty much all day long, every single day, as well as 26 coaches that we have that help people all over the United States and the world. Not just the United States. We're bigger than the United States.
Yes, we are.
So with that being said, appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Matt, always enjoy my time with you. And here's to feeling better, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, everybody. We appreciate you and look forward to talking to you on the next episode. So have a great day.
Bye, everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.